And transitioning to another controversy, Kyrie Irving's situation is fascinating with the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets actually just came out and acknowledged yesterday that they're unsure about Kyrie Irving's vaccination status. And apparently they're prepared to play home games and to practice in Brooklyn without him. Now, obviously, we saw Steve Nash, and it was reported that Steve Nash had come out and said, we're not moving practices to accommodate Kyrie Irving. And the Nets, their optimism has been waning, and I think they're a little bit unsure if they can accept a part-time Kyrie Irving professional player. Now, the Nets had just completed a West Coast trip. They played the Lakers in the preseason a couple days ago, so they were practicing in San Diego for the week. Kyrie Irving was obviously a part of those practices, and according to the structure of his finances, if he were to skip games, he'd be losing out on about $381,000 per game, including the preseason. If that was to persist throughout the entire regular season, he would lose about $15.6 million over the course of the year. And it's funny because in life, you're always going to find, and I feel like in life, you always see those people, those people that always claim that they don't want attention and yet always seem to be a distraction or drawing attention to themselves or raising topics that seem to have been unprompted or somehow magically appeared out of thin air. It would be one of those situations where you're living with a roommate or you're living with a significant other and they come home all miffed. You can see the irritation on their face. They're kind of scalding as they're entering the apartment or the house. And they come up to you complaining and they're saying, man, my boss is a piece of work and they didn't let me have a good lunch break, but I don't really want to talk about it. Well, the comment was tacitly posed because the way you're supposed to interpret it if you're the roommate is, hey, they want to talk about this. They want to talk about this. Or if someone begins a statement by saying, I don't want to be disrespectful, but, well, you can negate anything that's going to come because what's about to come out of that person's mouth following that precursor is some kind of insult, some kind of slight. When you're driving on the sidewalk and or driving on the sidewalk, hopefully you don't drive on the sidewalk. If you're driving on the street and you approach a stoplight and you see an inflatable tube man, right? Those kind of inflatable tube men that are right on the sidewalk, a huge distraction. And there's a sign next to it saying, please be careful driving, drive carefully, like don't text and drive. Well, that's hypocritical because the purpose of the inflatable tube man is to distract you, is to draw your eyes off the road. Kyrie Irving comes out and says a week ago, guys, I don't want to be a distraction. This is personal for me. Please let this not be a distraction. Well, the mere fact that you're mentioning, I don't want this to be a distraction, is inherently a distraction. Works the same way. And had he simply just said, this is personal, I'm not going to address this further, okay, the media would still have questions. There would still be opaqueness and ambiguity surrounding his situation, and people would still want to know what he's planning on doing. They'd still be seeking some kind of resolution or some answers, but at the very least, no one would be concerned about his words. They'd be more concerned about his actions. But now Kyrie Irving's words and his actions are a distraction. And that's a big problem. And this is a Brooklyn Nets team that has aspirations to win an NBA title. In fact, they were just recently voted as the team most by NBA GMs in the league, the team most likely to win the NBA title. Well, a lot of that's going to hinge on whether or not he plays. In fact, those aspirations will be significantly hampered if he's not around for half the games. And to be honest, if I'm Kevin Durant or I'm James Harden, I'm not addressing this publicly. I'm not going to bring this up with the media. There's no need to get the media involved, but privately, I'm approaching Kyrie Irving either individually or together, which maybe they already have. And I'm saying to him, listen, man, we appreciate your principles. We appreciate your position. We're always going to be brothers. We care about you, but the hell with this, man. You're either with us. Are you with us? And if you are, then get vaccinated. If you're not with us, then get going. To me, it's as simple as that, because those two guys, they don't have time to be having to dilly-dally and deal with a situation that's out of their control. That's simply out of their control. And I hate to kind of use this terminology, but I do think to some degree it's a little bit selfish and inconsiderate by Kyrie Irving, a little bit self-serving, because he's not really thinking about what's in the best interest of the team. He's just kind of posing a bigger detriment to their efforts. And it's not to suggest that he shouldn't be concerned about COVID or have the feelings, or the vaccine rather, or have the feelings that he has. But at the end of the day, you've got brothers that want to play basketball, that have aspirations to win a championship. And in a lot of ways, they're counting on your presence. So I love him as a player. I think he's a really well-spoken individual. He's clearly an intelligent. He's a bright young man. And again, a showstopper. He's a box office type of player. You walk through the turnstiles to see Kyrie Irving. He's one of the best attractions in the game. But it's getting harder and harder for me and other fans and media members to like this guy. And I really do like Kyrie Irving, but given his mercurial nature and the maverick approach he's been taking to a lot of different positions, a lot of stances, taking these sabbaticals, not providing any reasons for his absences, it just makes it a little bit more difficult to really resonate and to really appreciate this guy. And I guess, fortunately, this is why you traded for James Harden, to have that contingency plan, to have that insurance in the event that Kyrie Irving kind of went haywire and you weren't sure what he was going to be doing. And I still think that, while I don't think the Nets would necessarily be the favorites to win if it was just KD and James Harden, but they could certainly still contend and compete for an NBA championship with those two guys. So right now, I think if you're the Nets, you have to be feeling kind of tepid and kind of having lukewarm feelings about this Nets team, because again, I think that their championship doesn't fully hinge on Kyrie, but them being dubbed the favorites certainly hinges on whether he's there. Right now he's not, and I'm not sure if he's going to. I really don't know if he's going to show up. There's rumors that he might threaten to retire if he's traded. That might be the best course of action for the Nets. They may have to resort to that if it continues to persist for a long period of time.